metaphysical poets. The term metaphysical means concerned with the fundamental problems of the nature of the universe and the man's function or place in life. The metaphysical poets wrote during the first three quarters of the 17th century, and their main representative was John Donne. The metaphysical poets reflected the intellectual and spiritual crisis of their age, the difficult transition from the Renaissance to the modern age. The poet was expected to be a man of wit, showing not only his sensitivity but also his knowledge and cleverness. Metaphysical poetry is full of references to religious debate, astrology, alchemy, geography, and philosophy, which illustrate the intellectual excitement of the age. In those days, wit was the ability to create unusual metaphors and images and arrange them in an unexpected way so as to surprise the reader. The clearest distinguishing feature of the metaphysical poetry is the conceit, an unusual and intellectual kind of metaphor where the poet exploits all fields of knowledge for comparison: history, geography, astronomy, alchemy, mathematics, etc. Paradox and epigrammatic conciseness are another strength of metaphysical poetry, and likewise the element of drama. Donne, in particular, uses words and rhythms which common people were using in their speech around him. Most of his poems are dramatic monologues. The dramatic quality is most immediately apparent in the opening lines. Most poems begin in medias res, introducing the reader into the very middle of the poet's argument. The diction of the metaphysical poets was rich and varied. Latinisms and words of Anglo-Saxon origin were both used. The metaphysical poets wrote in several different verse forms and did not have a favorite convention. They were largely forgotten during the 18th century when a taste of clarity prevailed. Their reputation was revived by the essays of the modern poet Eliot, who understood the seriousness of their art, the spirit of revolt, their intellectualism, and their affinities with modern interests. John Donne was born in London in 1572 to a Roman Catholic family, but later converted to Anglicanism. When he was only 12, he went to Oxford, where he studied for 3 years, and then entered the Inns of the Court in London to study law. It was in these years that Donne wrote his early love lyrics, songs and sonnets, and satires, which circulated privately among his friends and were much admired. In 1598, he was appointed a private secretary to Sir Thomas Egerton, one of the highest officials in Elizabeth's government, and his prospect of a successful career were bright. What ruined them forever was Donne's secret marriage to a 17-year-old Anne Moore. Anne's father, a rich, influential country gentleman, had Donne dismissed from his job. In 1611, Sir Robert Drury took Donne on a diplomatic mission to France and other countries. Donne's separation from his wife at this time probably provided him with the occasion for writing the poem A Valediction, forbidding mourning, and bore him 12 children, 5 of whom died very young. During these years, Donne's main literary achievements were divine poems and 2 anti-Catholic pamphlets, which were his public renunciation of the Catholic faith. Many people, including King James I, recognized his potential as a religious thinker and preacher and urged him to take holy orders in the Anglican Church, which he did in 1615. After his wife's death, he continued to write poetry, particularly his holy sonnets, but the time for love poetry was over. From being appointed chaplain to the king soon after his ordination, he became, in only 6 years, Dean of St. Paul Cathedral, but he virtually ceased to be a poet. He died in 1631, and was buried in St. Paul's Cathedral. Donne is commonly considered a great literary innovator of his age and the most remarkable representative of metaphysical poetry. He created a way of writing which turned around these features. First of all, an intense dramatic quality. Lots of his poems are dramatic monologues with a speaking voice, so that immediate effect is that of vivid speech. The use of wit and unusual intellectual metaphors called conceits, recurring images in Donne drawn upon contemporary beliefs in metaphysics, cosmology, natural science, medicine, alchemy, and geography, and the use of a variety of tone and register, so the speaking voice takes on many inflection and intonations, from an assertive to a meditative tone, from coarse cynicism to enigmatic irony. Donne's imagery is impressive for its range and variety, and its rejection of the conventionally ornamental. He is aware of both the physical body and its mystical potential, its capacity for the raptures of love and sanctity. The struggle between physical and spiritual accounts for much of the tension in its work. So it's not surprising that religious metaphors are frequently used in his love poems, just as metaphors of physically love appear in the divine poems. The most powerful and pervasive image in Donne is that of death, often connected with darkness and sickness. Another major image is that of the world. Lovers are the world. Their love embraces in the whole world. The permanence of love is also ensured by lovers' experience of present in absence. The Petrarchan tradition had already set the rule for love poetry when Donne wrote songs and sonnets, where he changed the concepts concerning love and woman. The most scandalous of his ideas is probably his attitude towards woman's appearance. Donne emphasized the woman's inconstancy and describes several female characters, from the innocent girl to the woman who is aware of sexual pleasure.